Welcome to Dove and Dragon Radio. I'm your host, M.L.Ruscsak. Our show today is brought to you by the Women's Clothing and Jewelry Boutique for all your special occasion needs. I'm here today with Raine. How are you?
Good afternoon. Well, it's actually almost evening, so I guess we could kind of say after evening. I'm great. How are you?
Doing wonderful. Now, you are an author and empowerment consultant, visionary, cohesive healer, and a little bit of everything. So what came first?
Let's see. Probably the educational piece.
Okay.
So I ended up, going into education. I went to university and got a degree, and then took a year off and then went back again and got more upgrading. So it was kind of like the education came first. But to backtrack, as far as like some of my spiritual experiences, they began first, really.
Okay.
Like they began in my 20s. So
it happens. We juggle life, right?
yeah.
So we got the book out, which is Sight Beyond Sight. So what is this about?
Well, basically, Sight Beyond Sight is about consciousness. So it's about raising first of all, our awareness that consciousness exists. And secondly, coming into an awakening. If we want to start getting into like the logistics of how it works, like we're in the 3D world, of course, we all know we're, in on the earth plane and we're experiencing 3D reality, but we're all moving into the fifth dimension. We're all heading there. And so we've got the third dimension, the fourth dimension, and the fifth dimension. And as we are experiencing life and we're incorporating all these experiences, in our life itself and gaining information, that's kind of the 4D realm that we're moving through, if that makes any sense.
No, it makes perfect sense because I also have an education in metaphysiology. So this makes perfect sense to me. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
It wasn't until recently I actually got the education back, graduated in 2006. Okay. And then put the certificate in a drawer and forgot about it. I did the same thing with my religious studies certificates where I went through that. I got my degree in that and shelved it.
Wow. Well, you must agree that the religious studies and the metaphysical certificate or education are very different.
They are. Because you have the religion and you can't, a lot of the religion, you can't mix the metaphysiology because they don't believe in it.
That's right.
So it's constant conflict. And I did this because, well, I'm me and I like to learn things. So you get a dual degree and you look at both sides of the coin. But you have them both at constant conflict with each other. So you have this internal conflict and you have to do what's best for you. You can't say, oh, I'm going to go to church today, but I don't believe in what they're saying and go hug a tree and go, oh, this doesn't feel right either. You have to find a balance for yourself.
Absolutely. And myself, I raised my children in church. So I came from an experiential territory, right? So we had gone to several different faith denominations. And so, I guess you go through those growing pains and, in your own stead, and you learn so much going through it that way because you're actually living the experience, right? You're not learning it from a book. So it's there again, then when you're going to either Bible study or like you did the religious studies, now you're learning it from a different perspective.
See, I was very lucky. I have a mix of religions within my family that I grew up with. So I had samples.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So I could test out different things and always drawn to the more spiritual, always. And my grandfather, I loved him so much, said, you know, you need to be more on the spiritual path than the religious path because it doesn't work for you at all.
Yeah, wise man.
Yeah.
And, right now, it's just so interesting how, like, the timing of this book, because I began writing this book like 10 years ago, 9, 10 years ago, put it on the shelf because my life got busy and I was working 2 jobs a lot of those times, over those years, and then, pulled it back out and then worked on it for a bit. And like you did with your certificate, put it in the drawer. And then last year when COVID hit, I said, okay, enough is enough. I'm not just going to sit around here, waiting to get called back to work. I'm going to do something with my time. And so there were lots of long days, 10, 12-hour days, but it's just so interesting how the timing of it and how it came out. And that's where we really start to see spirit's role in it. God, the divine, whatever we want to call it, creator, the angels, our spirit guides. We really start to see that happening in our life when we start to pay attention. And that's part of that whole awareness and then the awakening piece.
Yes.
Of it.
It's when we're in crisis, that's when we start to awaken, because we have to get out of crisis.
Yeah. They say, right? I mean, it takes a crisis to
Make us
motivate
change.
us. Pardon?
Make us change.
Yeah. Yeah. And so when we're looking at, I'm sure most people can relate to this. This last year has been topsy-turvy. There's been, if we haven't had trauma before this last year, I'm sure that there are many people that can attest to having had trauma in this last year. So the stats show that, the suicide rates have, just skyrocketed.
Loaded.
Addictions, marital breakdowns, you name it. So we're looking at trauma from a whole different perspective, because in some ways we don't even have control of it right now because of the global agenda, and it's dictating in many ways our lives and what we can do with them.
This is
people
very true.
lost their businesses, their jobs, their, it's tied a lot of people's hands for sure.
I mean, how many people in this last year have either lost their jobs, got their hours reduced, can't work that second job because you have curfews, because now, whatever. So you're home, you're depressed because you can't pay the bills, or you have real estate owners can't get the rent from the renters, they can't evict the renters, and they can't pay the bills on the taxes.
Exactly. And I mean, over like, anyone that reads my book, I do get into a lot of the trauma that I've had, which is basically the trauma that people have experienced in the last year. I experienced that for almost the last 7 years of my life. So, the traumatic things happening, the laying on the couch, the depression, the, pulling myself up and out of it. And, this has sort of been something that I've had happen in my life since I was a child. Things go great for a while and then boom, boom, boom. And so I guess you could say, when you go through it that much, either you learn some skills or you don't.
Right.
You go on some
even
meds.
look at, okay, this was said by Brad Blazer. I watch him a lot for motivational stuff. In Fubu, the owner and creator of Fubu, he said this a lot as well. If you go into COVID and you don't come out with a new skill, you wasted this opportunity, because you have all this time with your home, you have a computer, you're doing nothing. You can either spend it with your family or learn a new skill or create a business. If you're not doing all the above, you're wasting this opportunity to grow.
Definitely are. And I talk about, in one of my chapters, I talk about compartmentalizing, and that would come into play there where, like, okay, I'm going to set aside 1 hour to play with my children. And then I'm going to give them an activity to do, some coloring or whatever. And I'm going to get on my computer and I'm going to do some research on whatever it is that I need to do, if I need to expand my skills or look for work online or whatever it is. We know it's all coming to that. We have to work online. The majority of people will be working or already are working online because not everyone is an essential worker.
No.
So we are literally in the middle of creating history. And this is the whole, what would you call it, like a teeter-totter effect, because we can, like you say, become depressed and feel helpless and hopeless, or we can, as I say on my book, I don't, it's probably backwards. Where there is no way, make a way, right? Yeah, it is backwards, so that's not going to help. So
no, actually,
you know,
when you put it on my side, I see it correct. So
okay. So where there is no way, make a way. And that's what we're literally, we have to do right now. I talk about, you know, sometimes we go through trauma, you know, we experience anxiety, depression, you know, there's abuse, there's maybe people, you know, eat too much and they need to lose weight. There's all of these, you know, secondary traumatic experience effects that we go through. But we have to reach deep down within ourselves and create that new chapter, that second chapter, I call it, because that is in effect, that's our second chance. It's our, and we can look at it like that every single day that we wake up. You know, even if we wake up and we spill our coffee on our white blouse and break our heel, and we can still start our day over again. I don't know how many times I've done that, where I've gotten up,
close your eyes, and start over.
You get up and things just aren't going well. So I just say, okay, that's it. I'm going to meditate. And I fall asleep for 10, 20 minutes. And I wake up and I say, okay, time to have a coffee or a tea now and start my day over again. Right. And it does work, you know?
It does. I mean, I have on my phone about 30 meditation things, music. So I won't call them songs because there's no words. It's just different frequencies for different harmonics depending on what mood I'm in. So it's all there.
Yeah, the Hertz videos you're talking about.
Yes.
So I listen to those like daily. That's what's usually on in the morning, all morning. And my pets just love it. They just zone right out. So, you know, you can do the 888 Hertz or, you know, 442. You can type in any number. And if you do that on your phone or your computer, it'll actually show you what it's for. So it'll say to raise your vibration or to help you overcome anxiety or whatever. So they're just tools that help us to raise our own level of vibration. And they really actually work, because I don't know about you, but you know, sometimes my brain is just, you know,
I'm
not
getting into, I'm actually pulling up my YouTube so I can bring up what we're talking about. But I go to sleep listening to different hertz. Yeah. Right now I'm on the 963.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I mean, not joking. It's right there on my phone.
Yeah, they're so cool. Yeah.
But I go through different. Well, stop. I don't want you now. But I go through different hertz depending on how my day went. I can go to the 963. That's my, you know, here I am for the day. Or I go to 5. I think it's 518. I go to different ones because I need to get into that meditative state in order to fall asleep.
And you need different things at different times throughout the day. And like you say, even when you go to bed, maybe you're too wound up. Maybe you're having too much heaviness. So it's creating anxiety. And then, you know, that's where the breath work is so important, right? Doing the deep breathing and doing the chakra videos are really good too. You've probably done those. And they're really nice because you can do the guided chakra meditations. I can't recall his name right now, but he's really good because there's some, they're just like 10-minute videos, which is great because it just brings you to that point of settling down, relaxing, and tapping in. Right?
It's not just the chakras, it's also the guided meditations. Those help. They're 10 minutes. You breathe. As long as you're taking that 10, 15 minutes to breathe, you can start your day over. And it changes your entire mindset. If you can get into a different mindset, then whatever was back here negative, you can fix it.
It bumps it out, literally bumps it out, right? And then you start to feel that level of vibration rising in you. All of a sudden you're filled with joy and you don't know why. You're just like feeling positive and you're motivating yourself.
Yes.
Right? Oh. Let me just plug my cord in. It's saying low battery. I don't want it to kick out.
Okay.
Yeah, so in the book, you know, I have it laid out. It's laid out in story form. So there's lots of stories loaded of like personal stories I've had, stories that others have shared with me, clients. I've had a lot of angelic experiences. So I've seen angels. I've had them, you know, save my life over and over again in vehicle mishaps. And then at the end of each chapter, there's a practical buoyancy section where you can practice. There's three tips in each at the end of each chapter. So it's, you know, breathing and, you know, taking a bubble bath, journaling. We know how important journaling is. Journal our dreams because our dreams have messages in them.
They do.
Right? So, you know, journaling our dreams so that we can, once we write it down, we're remembering it. And when we're writing it down, we're absorbing it and we're understanding it. And we can get clues to those messages that they're trying to get through to us. Right.
Right. So, I mean, how many times do we actually listen to our dreams? We usually don't. We just think, oh, it's a subconscious making up stuff, and you know, to get us from morning or night to morning. Well, a lot of times our subconscious is trying to get through to us because we're not doing something that we need to be.
Right. Well, dreams are really neat because we do process things at different times of the night, depending on if, you know, what throughout the night, if we're in REM sleep and you know, all of that, we do process, but they're also prophetic. Right. So we can have a heads up on, I mean, how many times have we had dreams about someone and then the next day we run into that person?
Right.
Or we run into someone that reminds us of them. Right. That's why we had that dream. It's showing us. It's like a little blueprint that's showing us the way.
It is. You can take your dreams. If a family member is sick or needs you, a dream will tell you before. It's a gut feeling. And then it's just something our subconscious does because we're all energy. Energy is all connected. If you're able to tap into the energy, this is how wives know if something happens to their husband or kids and they're not even in the same state.
Yep, they just know. When my oldest son was young, he would have been about 8 years old. He wanted to stay home and play hockey with his friend in the street. So the other two kids and I and my partner ran to the lumber store and we're looking at paintbrushes and all of a sudden I was doubled over in pain. Like I was getting sharp pain in my abdomen and I was doubled over. I couldn't breathe. And I'm like, what is going on? And I stood up and then down I went again. And I said, we have to get home right now. Like we have to go home. We put everything back. We left and I got home and there he was sitting on the front porch. They had been playing hockey and the puck had hit his lip, and his lip was like, you know, swollen and blood all over and he's crying, you know. So we know.
Yes.
We
when I was 19, I was living with my grandmother and another relative, and I had a dream that I had to tell my uncle who was there he couldn't go to work. He needed to stay home. Just like 5 minutes. No more did I deliver the message that needed to be delivered. The phone rang and another family member was hit by a car.
I mean, the warnings are there. They tell us.
Now, this was before everyone under this planet had cell phones. I know that's hard to imagine our, 20-year-olds
Yeah.
not understanding that.
Yeah, they don't get it. Yeah.
But this is before cell phones, and they didn't have a cell phone. So they wouldn't have known this family member was in the ICU or anything else until they got to work. And that would be an hour later. I mean, everything turned out great afterwards, but I mean, in that moment, it's a dream that wakes you and says, you need to tell them right now.
Act now.
Mm-hmm.
And when we look like right now across the globe, everything that's happening, there's never been a more pertinent time to practice consciousness and to raise your level of awareness than now, because we're being shown videos of things that we don't even know are true, that, our eyes can play tricks on us simply because people can doctor videos. They can do all kinds of stuff with technology now.
Yes, right? You can doctor audio, you can doctor video. Everything you see can be manipulated. Everything you hear can be manipulated. Everything you read, everything you think can be manipulated.
Yep. Anything on any of the news stations, anything, I don't even listen to mainstream media anymore at all. Like I haven't for years.
Yeah.
Because I recognize that years ago, is that everything's negative. Everything's based on negative, and it plays on you emotionally. It like sinks into your subconscious mind, and your brain is just like in panic, because it's like, oh my God, like you don't know what to think.
Well,
right?
Here's the reason. In World War II, there was a German doctor. I don't remember his name. And he said, if you play negative things for 7 days on media, radio, people start to believe it. Then as you go on, then you give into this false narrative of this positive light. They will follow the false narrative over the negative because they are tired of it. So they were more easily manipulated by lies.
And I just read something today on that they said when they do that, even when you show them the truth, even when you
they won't
show them what the actual, they won't believe it, because the brain is now conditioned, right? So never more than now, we need to pay attention to the signs and pay attention to our consciousness, develop that, because that really in the end is going to be the only true telling truth. Yes. of it's going to be the only telltale way to know what the truth is. Yes, it is. We have to pay attention to our gut intuition, and it's just like, how many times have any of us been going down the road and we know to not go down a certain road, or we were delayed at home? I've had that happen so many times. Then we find out there's an accident that happened on that same road that, we would have been on at that exact time.
Yeah. Our bodies, if we listen to them, will tell us what we need to do. But so often we ignore the signs around us.
We do. And that's why it's so important. Meditation sometimes scares people because they don't really know what to expect. They don't want to sit in a room going, oh, but there's so many different types of meditations that a person can do. And we can be in a meditative state even when we're in mindfulness.
Mhm.
So even just, think of yourself doing the dishes. You're in like a mindfulness state. You're relaxed. You're doing something with your hands that's methodical. So now your mind is freed up and you can get messages so easily that way, right? When
Right.
you're out mowing the lawn or you're doing the dishes or you're doing something, a task that's methodical. So
Mhm.
there's a lot of different ways that we can tap in, that we can connect.
Yeah, it's not all just sitting in a yoga pose going, there's a lot more to it than that.
There is. Yeah.
It, and there's so many different ways now that we're finding because of science. Science is actually helping us with meditation and spirituality.
And we know that, Alzheimer's is, a lot of people that, get Alzheimer's in life, it's because their telomeres are short.
Mhm.
And we can actually stretch our telomeres in our brain, which is, the capacity of memory, by doing some of these exercises, by doing brain puzzles, or by taking a different route home from work.
Mhm.
Don't take that same exact route every day. Challenge your brain, to do something different.
We condition ourselves to go the same route, the same way, do the same thing. It becomes a habit, and then we don't think about it, and then when we don't think, we start losing memory.
We're not using our mind to the capacity. What is it? I think they say 10%. We use maybe 10% of our brain every day. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's,
We,
so
we don't we don't reach our full potential because we don't challenge ourselves.
When people look at people like Elon Musk and Picasso, you look at any, anyone that pushes themselves, that's why they become so successful in what they're doing, because they're constantly pushing themselves.
Yes.
And setting a bar and then going beyond it, and then setting another bar and going beyond it. And I mean, we want success and we want to achieve fulfillment in our lives, but and yes, it's important to do that. And then we need to just take those breaks, take that rest. And I call it pause. So, time for pause in your day.
Yes.
Right?
Right. Now we're almost out of time. So how can our listeners and our viewers find you?
They can find me on my website at sightbeyondsight.org. It's under construction right now. It's being completely revamped. So in another day or two, they might want to check back on the new version, because there's going to be way more information loaded on there. Or they can email me at sightbeyondsight222@gmail.com. My book is available directly through me, as well as on the Friesen Press bookstore. But they can get it through me, and I can send them the ebook as well directly, so they can have that immediately. A lot of people like just sitting on their tablet and, putting a movie on and kind of watching it,
I can't read on a tablet. I have to have a book, physical book.
Yeah, I've been finding a lot of people prefer the physical book, because then they can highlight and circle and make little notes on the side.
Oh,
And
but
that's
I'm
great.
not the only book murderer.
Yeah. Oh no, I do it all the time too. I think that comes from going to university, right? Going, being in the system, you get used to doing that.
I started this in high school. I actually had to buy my senior books, junior, senior year high school books, because I'm sitting there highlighting in the book. I'm like, you know what? I just buy the daggone thing for $15.
Yeah, exactly. So I do want to mention it's also on Amazon, but for some reason they've got the price much higher than my book. I think it's about $8 higher plus your shipping. So, if they want to save, a few bucks, just contact me directly. And also I do consulting and coaching, both business and personal. I've got programs that I run, and I also do psychic intuitive readings. So, I've got a lot, on the move.
I have a lot going on. It's not all on the site right now. It'll be there in a few days. But it was awesome talking to you. Thank you.
I really enjoyed it, Mel. Thank you for having me.
For our readers, listeners, and viewers, Happy reading.